So when we replace those bottles, again, we're going to want to have some gloves that can handle the acetone. We want goggles or glasses. We use a knife. Not the best picture here, but this is a knife. We have our correct base at ink and cleaner. We have some shop towels or some rags. We're going to need a bottle, lockout, tag out, and we're going to need a vacuum. And we're going to need that brush because we're going to clean the area. We're going to clean the print heads, especially after we flush and all that good stuff. We just want to make sure we end up with a good clean set of print heads ready to go. Replacing the bottles, the fluid bottles on a blade saw. Here we have the 2 ink bottles and a cleaner bottle. Again, you may only have 1 ink bottle, depends on how many print heads and how many valves. The label should be on the tubing to help keep that straight. We have ink lines, we have cleaner lines. Again, there's our good old important pop-off valve. We're going to make sure that's in working order. I physically pull this up and down a couple times just to make sure it's not sticking. I want to make sure this valve is working. I want to make sure it's going to protect my print heads. So we're going to lock out the air pressure coming into the saw. We're going to make sure that these bottles feel like there's no pressure in there. The gauge is at 0. We're actually going to pull up the safety valve, make sure we got all the air out. We're going to slowly crack the lids for the cleaner and the ink. This area is very important to make sure that this has all been cleaned out before we get ready to replace these fluid bottles. You can see here the fluid bottle lid has got the filter on it and the pickup tube, and it's going to hang there. You don't have a lot of slack in these lines. If you don't clean all the sawdust out of this area, your pickup tube and filter assembly is going to lay in that sawdust. So we want to do everything we can to keep these filters and pickup tubes out of the sawdust. You can kind of see the T's and all the connections here. These are some of them we're talking about in the maintenance area. When we're talking about inspect the hoses and the fittings, we shouldn't see a bunch of ink or a little bit of ink coming out of any of these. We might have a crack in our systems. This is a good time to inspect this as well. The Cyber AT, the fluid bottles on the Cyber AT, this is the standalone pressure unit we talked about. It does have the power button. It also has the power cable. When I do this myself, I turn the power off and I unplug this just so I know nothing's going to accidentally turn power on to this power unit. On the very top of it, Matthews puts this nice little label there showing us how to change our ink or our cleaner bottles. They're showing us power off. They're showing us to slowly undo the cap and filter assembly and then slide the bottle up. I will tell you, this is 4 to 7 psi, and we're slowly popping that cap off. The new container goes in, and we're going to cut an X with that knife that we have in the top here. We want to cut it from edge to edge so that filter assembly slides through easily. The filter assembly can crack up top where it connects to the cap, and we're trying to protect those filters. We try not to peel off the foil because we have to get it all off if we peel it, and we don't want anything to fall in the ink, and we want a good seal at the top. There is a small O-ring in this filter cap assembly. We're going to reattach it, and then we're going to repressurize our system here. That is basically the replacing the fluid bottles on a Cyber AT saw. Again, the purge valve, we just switched. We're going to grab a bottle here. We're going to take off the cap off that purge. Spring-loaded valve is here, and we're going to purge it until the chemical that we just put in there is coming through, and then we're going to switch to the other one, either ink or cleaner. So you will have to do this twice to get ink and cleaner through the system. So if you're replacing cleaner and ink bottles, I would purge cleaner, get it to the print head, and then I would do ink as well. I would do them both and then do the one last that you want in the system at the time. So if you're going to replace the bottles and then go home for the weekend, I would go ahead and purge ink so I know ink is to the print head, and then I would go ahead and do my cleaner.